This is subliminal acoustic manipulation. So whatever that is, science, concerns for the future, thoughts, whatever. I already made a video kind of giving a brief background on this, and how it's the origins in studying this begin with the theater. And it's about the 1920s and 30s, and during the time of World War II, it becomes a point of interest for the military. But to talk about one other background point really quick, in 1935, there were a bunch of reviews of, this person, the leader in these theater-based acoustic strategies. There were reviews on this talking about the sound and the technology behind it, and they talk about how science created shivers for the audience without hearing it, like inaudible sound waves, creating synthetic shivers for the audience. And kind of expanding from there. But there was this other article, so 1935, someone's already talking about this, and a journalist said, suppose a government official, an elected leader, begins to utilize these strategies. And the idea being that ultimately what these sound waves do, even, when it is audible or not, the idea is to create a predictable emotional reaction from the audience. And its effectiveness was very well proven. They talked about how a lot of these were artistic, these are integrations for artistic purposes, but there were also used examples that weren't. So in applause, for example, they tested out the use of synthetic applause that was used at the end of the shows, for example, to enhance the experience. And what it did was the synthetic applause enhanced the perceived experience of the audience to the point where they were getting 5 curtain calls for the show. So it was not only creating an emotional response, but it was directly affecting how the audience perceived their experience. So they perceived the show to be even better because of these techniques. And so this journalist says, suppose a government official does this, right? We might get to a point of what they were calling at the time subsonic manipulation of audiences, that we might get to a point where audiences are attending events solely to be conditioned in such a way that elicits an emotional reaction that tells them what to believe, right? And so they might, the public figures or the speakers might not be saying anything extremely valuable, important, interesting, or knowledgeable, but these subsonic sound waves would elicit a reaction from the audience that would provide them with the emotion that they are supposed to feel, and that they would leave with and act on. And so let's see if I can